3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everyone, to the Briones Pickleball Podcast. This is your host, Jordan Briones, and today we have a good one for you. We're going to be talking a lot about strategy, tactics, the game, possibly the mental game, and just leveling up your game. And today I have a special guest, actually a newer friendship in my life, in my pickleball life. But this is Mike Wolf, everybody. Michael Wolf.
Hey guys.
Yeah. So Mike, Mike is an aspiring pro, and he's playing a lot of PPAs. Do you play not MLP, APPs as well?
A couple, but more PPAs than APP.
All right. So we'll get more into his story, but yeah, we're gonna today he's playing at a really high level, and he is trying to see what his ceiling is, and he's trying to continue to improve every week, along with a lot of you, whatever level that you may be at. So I don't know, Mike, how'd you get into the game? Why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into like a lot of the important pickleball stuff that people might want to know. So
okay,
go ahead, dude.
So I first got into pickleball. It was well, actually, the first time I picked up a paddle was a few years ago, but that was only for a very brief period of time because I went home to Washington for summer break from college, and then I wanted to play tennis, but the tennis courts were all filled up with pickleball players.
Oh, okay.
So then I played with those people for a couple weeks, but then I tore my meniscus from pickleball, actually, which is surprising.
Oh, wow.
And then
and that's in your knee, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Tore, you had surgery or no?
No surgery, but it took a long time to heal up. But so I only played for about 1 or 2 weeks, and then had a bad injury, and then kind of forgot about pickleball because when I went back to college, then I was just focused on tennis again. But then, but 2 years later, when I graduated university, then I went back to my parents' place in Washington, and then I met those same groups again that I had met 2 years previous, and then I just hit it off with them again, picked up a paddle, played games, and
cool, man.
It was fun.
So you've been playing how many years now?
So in terms of duration, probably about 1 year, because but the first time I picked up a paddle was probably like 3 years ago. But
yeah, awesome, man. So you got into the game, and what level was the first tournament? Or your first tournament, what level did you play? Do you remember?
Played 3-5.
Oh, 3-5.
Yeah.
Okay, and how did that go?
Well,
or do you think you were, or I guess we'll hear like if it was too easy or too hard or whatever.
It was too easy. Got gold. Didn't drop a game the whole tournament. It was a mixed doubles tournament.
Okay.
And then a lot of my friends were giving me flack for being a sandbagger. Back then, I didn't know the different levels, how difficult they would be and stuff.
Sure. So after that, obviously coming with a tennis background, that helps a lot. And you played pretty high level tennis, right?
Yeah, in high school was my highest level probably. I was training at a tennis academy full time. Like it was...
Which one?
It was called Rising Stars Tennis Academy. It was located in Beijing, China, actually.
Oh,
and
you were living in China?
Yeah.
Oh, for how long was that?
So I lived there for 3 years in high school, and then halfway through college, I took another gap year to go back to China one more time.
Wow. Okay. So because there's a lot of academies here though in the U.S. Why were you in China? Or why did you pick that academy, your parents?
So I always wanted to train at a tennis academy, but the American ones were actually too expensive for my family. So when I was in the US, I couldn't afford that type of training. But
so it's just cheaper then, basically. Wow.
Yeah, much cheaper, yeah. And but I didn't move to China specifically for the academy. Like my dad, his job actually was to work in China for 5 years actually.
Wow.
And then and I had to tag along since I was still in high school at the time. And yeah, I just cashed in on the tennis academy, which was way cheaper over there. And And it was a good academy, like the number 5 tennis player in all of China for 16 and under trained with us.
Wow. So, cool, man. Yeah. All right. So you did that. Shortly after that 3-5 tournament, and then you probably found out, right, that probably wasn't the right level. Did you go to 4-0, 4-5, or like what was your progression at that point?
So I went right to 4-0 after that, and I was also winning most of those tournaments, so then went to 4-5 after that, and but I didn't play many 4-5 tournaments because that the summer had ended at that point, so there was less tournaments to play, but I was focused mostly on training after that. So I did a 3-5, some 4-0s, then I think 1 or 2 4-5s, and then just focused on training.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So I actually met Mike here in Boise, in Idaho, and so we were, if you don't know, my family and I were out there for the summer. I was doing some 5-day intensives, and Caden was along with us, and so I think I reached out to a few people there in Boise on just to drill and train. And I think I forgot. I'm trying to remember who I reached out first because I don't know a lot of people there.
Was it Braden?
Yeah, it probably was. It probably was Braden. So shout out to Braden from Pickleball Effect. But I got to drill with him, and he's a really good player. And then I got a whole bunch of numbers, right?
Yeah.
So yours was one of them, and Mike, one of the nicest guys up there. So I appreciate that, letting me in. And then I think the first time we met, we did like a singles kind of like a round robin or just practice, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that Mike plays a lot and is really passionate about is singles. So you may. At this point, it might be changing, but you actually may train singles a little bit more than doubles. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. And why is that?
One of my favorite training buddies, actually, shout out to Matt Fisher. Then he's a singles player, has a really good singles group. And when I first moved here, I think Matt was my main connection of like higher level players. Yeah. So I just got in with that group, and it was so fun to play with them. And they always play outdoors at like the hottest time of day. So I loved it.
Yeah. So you're like playing and training singles in like 105, 110 heat. Then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
For like 4 hours at a time.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, man. But Mike, you actually live here in I was gonna say Boise. No, here in Arizona now.
Yeah.
So it's funny because we met in Boise, and then you told me that, hey, you might be moving or are moving to Arizona. So
yeah.
Now we drill at times, and it's good to have another high level player.
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man. So it's cool. Yeah, man. So you started playing. When did you play your first PPA? And maybe how does that work? Because obviously I'm not in the pro scene anymore. I know that there's qualifiers and there's a whole bunch of stuff. But like for the player that kind of is like yourself, maybe you want to see if you can even do it or have the level and try it out. Like, what is the process of what was your thought process first, and then what was your process of like, this is what I need to do to enter? Do you just enter it and pay and then you show up? Like how does it work right now if you don't have enough points for the main draw? Like what do you have to do? Oh,
good question. So the first PPA I played was PPA St. George in Utah, and the thought process, like my current thought process for pro tournaments, so the current thought is like if you're not a main draw player, you do have to allocate more time because qualifiers will probably be a few days before, or a couple days at least before the main draw, so you have to plan a longer trip. And also one thing, so my mom is helping me plan out flights and stuff, and she has to book like multiple return flights, like one just in case I don't make main draw, one in case I make main draw. But but luckily Delta, which is the airlines I fly with, they give refunds if you cancel a flight. But so you have to plan for a longer time duration, and then also qualies is single elimination. So right off the gates you have to play really hard, because like my first 2 pro tournaments I actually made the finals of singles qualies.
So finals of singles qualies, that means you play the qualifiers, then it's the final match before you go to the main?
Yes, like the winner of that match would qualify. Lost both times, sadly. But I mean, I did well on my first 2 pro tournaments, but then the third pro tournament, which was PPA Salt Lake City, then I lost in the first round of qualies, and then I was out for the whole tournament.
So you've only played 3 then?
Yes.
Like PPA so far?
Yes. Well, actually I've only done 2 PPAs, 1 APP so far, so pretty new to the game. But
yeah, cool, man. And then so that's singles. Like, what about doubles? And this is something that I'm sure a lot of you listening, and I get this, obviously I teach a lot. Singles is cool because obviously totally different game and not a lot of people play it. But with doubles, you have to, there's a partner involved, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to get partners and stuff like that. So what is your, why don't you just share like what your process has been, like, you know, getting doubles partners that maybe could relate to other, obviously you're playing at a different level, but every player at your level, whether you're playing 3-5, 4-0 or whatever, they also, you know, like what's your process of getting partners and how to pick them and things like that? Like, how is that going?
Well, I think if you want a good partner, like ideally you would want a partner your level or higher. And to get that, I think the best way is to ask multiple people and plan in advance. Like if you plan out tournaments 1 or 2 or even 3 months in advance, I think you have a much higher chance of securing a really good partner as opposed to like 2 weeks before the tournament starts. Like, hey, you want to play with me? Like, and also I think it's important to have a partner whose style synergizes well with you, because for me, sadly, I'm not the tallest. Like, I'm 5'9", so I can't cover the entire court. But my main partner, he's a great guy named Nick. He's like, I think he's 6'1", so he can take up a lot more court space. Usually we put him on the left side, so he plays hyper aggressively. I'm like, try to be solid on that right side, so we both know our roles and we have very different roles on the court. So I think team synergy is really important too.
Cool. Yeah, cool, man. So that's so you've played, so like how has the doubles been going? You said you, out of the 3 pro tournaments, you made it to the finals of the qualifiers.
Yeah.
Right. So you haven't made a main draw yet.
Yeah, not yet.
So what about, or how has the doubles been going?
So doubles hasn't been going as well, but I've only done 1 pro quali in doubles. Like the first 2 tournaments I did pro quali in singles and then just 5-0 in doubles.
Got it.
But then but this most recent one we also lost in the first round of pro quali doubles. But the team that beat us qualified though, so at least they were one of the better teams in the qualies. But yeah, it hasn't been as good as singles so far.
Yeah, no, man, that's really cool. All right, so what is let's talk about, let's get to some strategy stuff. I want to kind of ask you about like what you've been learning, obviously coming from a tennis background and working your way up through the different levels. What's one? And then we'll start here, because a lot of you listening to this maybe could relate, and a lot of you can't because you haven't had that tennis background. But putting the tennis background aside, Mike, early on in like your like discovery, when you play that 3-5 tournament, obviously it was, you know, you were probably a banger and just kind of using your power, right? Yeah. But what is the first 1 or 2 kind of tips early on that really like help change your game or your mindset for pickleball?
Oh,
yeah.
Like things that help me personally? Or?
Yeah, like that someone told you or that you've discovered, like that really helped your strategy or whatever, like early on. And then we can talk about like now, but like early on.
So one thing I learned early on is that like the key to playing at a higher level yourself is by training with other higher level players. Like when I was a 4-0, I got stuck at 4-0 for a while because I was only hitting with other 4-0s. But once I started hitting with 4-5s, like within a week, I got to a decent 4-5 level. And then same with 5-0, like going up to once I started hitting with 5-0 players, I think it only took 1 or 2 weeks before I could like play at the 5-0 level and hang pretty well with them. So I think the quality of the people you're training with is really important because it teaches you that if you're not hitting a shot good enough, it's going to get punished. Like if you're playing with people better than you, but if you're playing with people your level or worse, then you can get away with a lot more like I guess dumb shots. Like I used to be a banger that just bangs everything. But you can't get away with that as easily at 5-0 compared to 4-0. And so you learn a lot more strategies simply by playing with higher level players that use higher level strategies.
Yeah, no, it's really good, man. If you guys actually haven't seen, we have our past 2 videos. Maybe Mike has actually been on our channel. Thanks, Mike, for helping with that. But you'll probably see Mike more often on our channel since he's here and we drill every so often. But you mentioned Mike going from like, let's say, see the thing is like you have the skills, like you have the skill set, right? For someone coming from tennis at a high level, you do have the skill set for pickleball, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have I guess the decision making and the actual like thought process and the strategy for the game. But like from 4-0, 4-5, right, in that range to let's just talk about, and let's see if you can kind of decipher this. But 4-0 to 4-5, what were 1 or 2 of the skills or the decisions that you had to stop making as you learned to hop in that next group? So you were playing 4-0, then you moved to 4-5. So what were 1 or 2 of like the main things that you learned that you had to adjust in your game?
So one of the main things I learned was to drop more, and one thing I learned is that like third shot drive is okay, but then if the shot's coming back at a neutral pace, then often doing fifth shot drop is better than just driving again. Like instead of driving to death, using the third shot drive to set up a good fifth shot drop, or even dropping on the third, like utilizing more drops. And also another thing I learned is to move my dinks around more, like, which helped me play at a higher level. Like I used to always dink cross court like every time in the same place instead of like middle cross body or like cross court middle. Like I didn't know how to change the directions like that. But
yeah, it's good, man.
But cool. Yeah, so that helped a lot early on to not just get completely outplayed by like the 4-5s and stuff like that.
That's really cool. Actually, just really quickly, Mike, speaking on patterns and moving your partner around and all that stuff, we have a free masterclass. So why don't you guys go out and check that out? It's it is in this masterclass we actually talk about how to really put your opponents on defense, how to move the ball around. It's totally free. Just check out attackmasterclass.com. I'm glad you brought that up, Mike. Thank you. But it is a free resource for you out there, and it at least gives you the guidance on how to attack. And that's really interesting, Mike, because in the beginning when I first started my journey of pickleball, and you don't know this because I've been playing a long time. But like the strategies before, like dinking cross court repetitively was an actual good strategy back in the day.
Oh.
And that happened quite often. I mean, we used to see, even at the pro, or we'll call it at the pro level at that time, we used to see cross court rallies happening, 5, 10, 15, 20 rallies, right? But in today's game, it's so much different. So what do you think the benefit of, and we talk about this on our attackmasterclass.com, but what do you think the benefit of actually, getting out of that pattern, Like, what is the benefit of that and actually moving the ball around? And like, what are you looking for when you do that?
Well, I think the main benefit is at the higher level, if you dink in the same place every time, they get so comfortable. So for one thing, the opponent is not likely to miss. And another thing is they can find more attacking opportunities, like perhaps taking it out of the air or creating more pressure or sneaking a speed up into your partner. Like, so I think the main purpose of changing the direction of the dinks is just to break their rhythm, like prevent the opponent from getting into a rhythm, and also perhaps having a slightly better chance of getting a pop-up dink that you or your partner can reach in and apply more pressure.
Yeah, that's good, man. Oh, I love that answer. Yeah. So, breaking up, you mentioned breaking up patterns, I think is really good. Obviously, when you're going to the same spot, you are, they have time to prep, and they have time, to kind of they're seeing the same ball, right? So like you said, on speed ups and things like that, they can definitely, I guess, tee up their speed ups, or, if they see the same ball coming, they could kind of pre-plan. They could kind of pre-plan in a way, a lot easier than if the ball's coming in different spots, right?
Yeah.
They kind of have to adjust their mentality a little bit. So no, that's really good. Now we talked about 4.0 to 4.5. And I think the two things you mentioned was, you said moving your dinks around, and the first thing was what?
Dropping way more.
Oh yeah, dropping way more, and then utilizing your third shot drives for solely not solely to find an easier fifth, but as an avenue where you can actually find easier drops after the third shot drive. So it's really, really good. Now as you went from 4.5 plus, or as you are actually playing now at like 5.5 plus levels, because on the pro qualifier and things like that, and working your way in there, what are some things that you've learned, probably, let's say in the past like month or two, strategy wise, or just things that you have to currently right now like work on your game, or else it's you're not going to be able to compete with the top guys? Like, what are some things that you're focusing on?
Well, one thing I'm focusing a lot on is improving my hand speed, like which didn't come naturally at all, because with tennis you have so much more time to hit your volleys, and you tend to, it's something you told me, like in tennis people slice their volley more, but in pickleball it's better to like punch the volley, so you're not giving the opponent a weaker shot that they can counter. So trying to improve my hand speed a lot has been something I've been working on a lot, and then also like being like more patiently aggressive, if that makes sense. Like
I like that.
Like being aggressive with dinking more aggressively, rather than like I have to speed it up to be aggressive. Like still having an aggressive mindset, but being way more patient and way more willing to grind, I think has helped me a lot in doubles especially. And also like trying to fake where you're hitting the ball, like sometimes like acting like you're gonna drive middle, but then at the last second like opening up the paddle and then slicing it inside out, like shots like that. I realized a lot of good players do it, and it's really hard to read it when they do it. So
like kind of like deception and working on kind of disguise and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool, man. No, that's really, those are all super important things when we talk about, and I think those things really don't come in to play probably until like the 4 or 5 level, or really, really, you don't see that a ton. You're talking about super deception and things like that. But if you are at what is that first thing that you mentioned before deception?
Being more patiently aggressive.
Patiently aggressive. Yeah. So whatever level you are at, though, I think learning how to be patiently aggressive is really key and important. And you can kind of take that whatever level you're at. Obviously, we want to hit balls in the court, and we want to be we got to be consistent, right? And I think everyone out there, you should be balancing the line, and the reason why we drill and practice is to be consistent. But also, I like that because you have to be as aggressive as possible, at every chance you can get.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think it's hard for some players. I think that, at times, I think we go into these two phases, and you can tell me what you think about this, but there has been a phase with players that I coach, and even in my own game, where I'm really, really working on consistency, right? Where I have, like, let's say it's backhand dinking, right? And I have to work on it to where it does not fail me, right? To where if I'm in a grinding point, I have to be in that kind of, I have to have that skill, right? And then, but in that phase of like thinking, sometimes you could forget a little bit about attacking or looking for the attacks, right? And then the other phase that I found myself in at times, I mean, this is over the years, and also as I'm training others, is you got to be super aggressive. You got to look for attacks, right? But there is a sense of like how to attack, when and where. Right? Where am I attacking? So that's really important, because, and if you slide too far in the scale of being super solid and consistent, or slide too far in the scale of just being ultra aggressive, right? You can have problems at either end.
Yeah.
Right. So just on that, and as I teach, and I mentioned the master class, it helps you in the decision making, but what are your thoughts on that sliding scale I just mentioned, and how just what are your thoughts on that, and like thinking about it in your own game?
Well, yeah, I think you bring up a really good point, because when you're playing an opponent who is very consistent but will rarely attack, then you feel basically no pressure from them, because they're never going to attack. So you can almost kind of bully them on the court. And then, but meanwhile, if someone's hyper aggressive, they become predictable if they're speeding everything up and you're sitting on your counter, and they'll make more errors and stuff.
Yeah.
So from an opponent standpoint, that's a really good point you made, because both types of opponents are more easy to deal with than someone who plays more balanced. And then for me, like I guess
that.
Oh, what was that?
No, I said I like that. Yeah. No, you're right. So you it's kind of what I just mentioned, but yeah, you have someone super consistent, doesn't miss, but won't really hurt you.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have the person that's like kind of makes at times just not the right decision.
Yeah.
But you kind of just know, so it's easier to handle speed ups and attacks, because you just sit on it every time.
Yeah.
And you know that if you can at least hit some decent dinks, that you'll win the majority of them. Right. So no, that's really that's really good. So let's go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing to add to that is the fact that both players are predictable, I think, is what gives you that mental edge over them, because you kind of know what to expect before they even hit the ball. Like, yeah. And then what I was saying is, I find myself falling into both of those patterns a lot. So I think the main way I'm trying to work on not falling into any of those camps is just trying to be like, I mean, I guess it's what we were talking about earlier, like being as aggressive as possible, but with the mindset of a consistent player. Like I'm going to apply as much pressure as I can, attack any weak ball I get, but then not miss, like not go for foolish speed ups or attacks out of nowhere, or when you're out of position, or that kind, or mixing up the attacks. Like sometimes if you have a reach in, instead of like trying to activate a hands battle, you can like lob like over their backhand shoulder. Like, there's creative ways to attack as well.
I like that
can help.
Creative attacking ways. Yeah. When I get a ball in the air, there's really three. I mean, there's more. There's a few buckets, but basically, when you get a ball in the air, let's say you're on the right side, because you play the right a lot. It's on the sideline, and you get one here, right, a little bit high. You could always attack to initiate a hands battle, right? Which is really not attacking to initiate a hands battle per se, because you're trying to go for a good spot, right?
Yeah.
Or you can hit it like a roll dink.
Oh yeah.
Right, like something slow, or because they're getting prepped for a speed up, you can roll it, right?
Yeah.
Or like you said, the offensive lob. So those are kind of like those are the three ways you can kind of attack, and then obviously there's subcategories there.
Yeah.
But no, I really like that, and I think I know that's a little bit what separates, I think, 4-5 from a 5-0. They have those three options, and they utilize them well, because like like at 4-0, they don't really, you don't really have like these angle roll dinks and like those kinds of things yet.
Yeah.
But like at 5-0, it's really tricky because and those are the balls that are tough, and we see at the highest level. It's when they get out of the air ball, and they can go to multiple spots on your body.
Yeah.
But also they can roll dink it to multiple places.
Yeah.
And then the last choice is a lob, but still that makes it just makes it that much tougher, you know.
For sure. Like when you don't know what to expect, it creates a lot more pressure on you, like not knowing what's coming and stuff.
Yeah. No, that's great. You know, I know you played a lot of tennis, and you probably, you know, worked on the mental game a little bit, or maybe you haven't. I just wonder like what you've learned at these academies and stuff like that. But one of the things, Mike, that a lot of people, even watching this and listening to this, they struggle with is the mental game. Because and I know that you know that's a huge piece of the game, because if that's not locked down, like you can, you know, it doesn't really matter how good your skills are or your footwork is, you can mentally self-destruct, and we've seen that even at pro levels with certain players. So how do you approach the game? You're playing tournaments, training for a lot of tournaments. What is your mental game like? Does it actually come easy for you? Have you had any struggles with the mental game in the past? And how do you prepare or deal with those kind of things?
So I think with the mental game, there's multiple different types of that help you be better mentally prepared. Like one is just simply like being ready to play, like getting your body warmed up before the match and doing good training leading up to the match. But then the other part of the mental game, I think, is during the match, like managing your emotions. And I think that's the harder part.
Yeah.
And I think what I try to do is I mean, in tennis, my three heroes were like the big three, like Federer, Nadal, Djokovic.
Yeah.
And then they're all like the pinnacle of mental toughness. Like with those guys, the thing that set them apart from the average pro player was after a bad point or a bad game or even a bad set, then they can completely reset, trust themselves, come back like ready to win the match. Like they don't lose belief in themselves, and they don't hold on to past mistakes into the next point. Like they don't bring the past baggage with them into the next point. So I think that's the most important thing that I try to emulate them in, like just each next point starting with like a clean slate, like not being like super frustrated about my mistake the last point, and also not being arrogant if I hit a good shot the point before, like just starting the next point very fresh, like and so
even interesting. So even when you do something really well, you're not dwelling on like, oh, I hit such a good shot, like that kind of thing.
I mean, I still do that, but I try not to.
Okay.
But yeah, when I'm at my best is when I'm not feeling discouraged or arrogant, like just coming with a clean slate to the next point. And I guess to be more practical, then like there's specific things I do, like I'll take a deep breath after every point, like through in through the nose and out through the mouth, like a deep slow breath, because that helps a lot with anxieties. And then also sometimes I'll like touch the back fence or something, just for whatever reason, like with my paddle, touching the back fence helps me to mentally like reset, like new point kind of thing. Like, and every player has different rituals they do, I think, to help get them into that state of readiness for the next point. But,
yeah, no, that's really good, dude. That's really good. So you talked about breathing, utilizing that, and you know that brings a few things, right? Obviously that brings oxygen to the brain, which is actually super important. And it what I've learned too is breathing just helps you if you're focused on you're actually focused on the breathing, like air into the nose, out to the mouth, it's hard to think about something else, right? So it actually gets your mind off of what just previously happened. So I think that's like a two side thing, and that's really important.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, what was the second thing that you said?
Touching the back fence.
Yeah.
Paddle,
So certain like things that you can do to kind of reset your mind, or just like different habits that you can do. So and a lot of pro players like have those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Sorry. One other thing I forgot to mention that helps me a lot actually is compartmentalizing the points. Like, instead of focusing on the score or focusing on who wins the point, like just focusing on each shot individually, like trying to do each shot well, instead of like, oh no, we're down 5-10, I can't lose this point. Instead of thinking that during the point, I'll just think it's a forehand drop, like I'm gonna try to hit it well, like keep my balance, bend my legs, like focusing on performing each individual shot well, rather than the big picture, like what the score is, who has the momentum, like or thinking about the point itself. I try to focus on
that.
Yeah, each individual shot to help compartmentalize it.
No, I really like that. Yeah, I haven't heard someone really explain it like that. Obviously, what you're not saying, right? Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're not saying is like you're focusing on every part of your technique and things like that.
Oh yeah, not doing that.
Yeah. But there's a sense of, I really like that, because if you're uber too focused on exactly how your wrist is and all these stuff that you've heard in coaching or trying to improve, that's gonna mess you up.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But I like how I like that. Like, let's say you're down 5-10 and let's say you're serving, right? And then and I do this as well. Let's say I'm down. To actually not think of the score is really difficult a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I already know I'm down 5-10. Here's my serve. I'm gonna try to score, but obviously if they get a side out, now they're gonna win it, right? Like those are the things that could be going on in your mind. But yeah, one of the things I think that helped, like you talked about focusing on the shot.
Yeah.
I like to focus on like and this is how I not really focus on like my serve initially. Like, let's say it's it could be singles or doubles, right?
Yeah.
But let's say I'm down 5-10 and I'm gonna get ready for the serve. I'm already thinking what third I'm gonna hit.
Oh.
Right. So I'll hit my serve and I'm looking for weak returns to attack. Like, that's my mindset.
Yeah.
So that already puts my mind to, okay, I'm looking for really weak returns to attack, and if I don't get it, then I'll just drop it or something. Right? But that helps me. To kind of pre-plan of like what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But also another way that kind of helps me, and maybe this is something that you guys can help. You know how people get yips on the serve?
Oh yeah.
Like that. It actually helps me thinking past the serve.
Oh.
Right, a little bit. Like I'm not thinking about my serve. I'm actually I know I'm gonna serve it. I'm just thinking about attacking a weak return. And if I put my mindset on that, then I don't have to like think about what I'm actually doing right now. I'm not thinking 10 shots ahead. I'm just thinking like the next one.
Yeah.
I don't know if you relate with that or if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Like, sometimes in my mind, I'm thinking like I'm going to hit my serve as deep as I can, as hard as I can into their body. And then if I get a weak return, like I'm going to apply pressure. Like,
yeah.
And that does help to take away from like, oh no, I have to hit my serve or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And one more thing on the focusing on each shot that helps me, I think the most, is it just helps me to not be too emotionally attached to the result, because I can't control what kind of shots the opponents are hitting. I can't control how my partner's playing, but if I'm just focusing on each ball, then that helps me a lot for just being more emotionally detached from the result of the point, or the uncontrollable variables and stuff.
Yeah. No, man, that's really good. What do you do after now you've been in this position, right? You've been in matches that you thought you should have won, right? or you have high expectations or whatever, right? What do you do when you lose a match? What's your mindset wise? Have you struggled? Has it been like really positive? Like, you know, like naturally, like each person's a little bit different, right? But like naturally, are you like, no, it's all right. Like I have a good mentality, or do you struggle with that? Or is it like, you know what, you really need to work on yourself? Do you get mad at yourself? What do you do when you are on the losing end of a match?
Oh, yeah. So that's a really good question. And I might be weird in this way, or it might be normal. I'm not sure. But for me, my emotional state after a match, it largely depends who I lose to. Like for example, in the cash games, I lost 2 finals against one of my good friends. His name's Corey. Shout out to Corey. And but I actually wasn't angry after either of those matches because I really like Corey. So seeing him do well, that makes me happy as well.
Okay.
But then if I lose to someone who I don't like as much, or someone who I think I should have beat, then that makes me like a lot more frustrated and stuff. Whether it's someone who I think I definitely should have beat them, or if they're like disrespectful on the court or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that stuff is the stuff I have to work on more after the match.
Yeah. So what any thoughts on that though, right? You lose to someone you thought you should have beat, or you lose someone who you just kind of like their attitude isn't the best, and you don't appreciate like the way they, or whatever. Maybe they were disrespectful. How do you handle those? Or what do you do after those things?
So, I mean, I'd say I've had some good reactions and bad reactions, but like one time I just had like pizza and beer after, like to make me physically feel better. Okay. But that's because I was like just anything to get me out of this depression. But that's not. I would not recommend that approach.
Okay.
And then
maybe not all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe if that's a habit, continual habit, it's probably not good. But I don't know. Maybe at times it's okay to handle yourself. I mean, okay, there's worse ways to handle yourself. Like you don't want to be taking drugs or something else. But like, pizza and a drink or something just to like get your mind off it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's not as bad. Or maybe sometimes I'm sure pro players have maybe done that at times.
I would guess so. Yeah. Like it definitely made me really happy. Like I went from total depression to complete happiness. Oh, okay. Like, short term, but I think perhaps a more wise approach, which I've also done, is just to try to get back on the court soon. Like the next day, setting up good training sessions. And then it's like because I can only be so frustrated after a loss if the next day, like, I'm playing 4 hours of singles with Matt, for example, and we're so focused on our singles training that it helps me to forget what happened the day before. But
yeah, no, man, that's really cool. Yeah, that's really good. I like that. Let's see, a couple more here. What is one specific example, Mike? Now you can say like singles or doubles, right? But just recently in a tournament or something that maybe helped you, and I think that this could help other players as well. But a specific example, a strategic adjustment that you made in game that actually affected the outcome of the match. So like you were playing, something wasn't working.
Yeah.
And the exact adjustment that you made and how that actually affected outcome.
Oh, that's a really good question. Let me think. Like,
it could have even been in rec play, or just something that you figured out in real time and then you made the adjustment. And how were you able to do that?
Well, I know in singles, sometimes the serve actually would determine the whole match. Like, I'll be down, like I'll just be playing normal, and then I'm down like 1-8 on the scoreboard, and then all of a sudden I'm going after every single serve, and then all of a sudden win like 10 points in a row. Like, so sometimes it's as simple a change as just changing the first shot of the match, or or sometimes it's on the return side. Like if I'm giving up too many points on the return, I'll be like, okay, I'm returning all my balls to his forehand instead of backhand, or something like that, like changing the placement of the return. But yeah, that's the best example I can think of right now. Like just being like, I'm going to go after every serve and then play aggressive on my thirds because I have nothing to lose at this point. And it has worked sometimes, but
yeah. Have you ever been on the opposite end where you're going for too much and you have to reel it in, or no?
So not in singles, because I think in singles being as aggressive as possible is like the key, like serving big, returning big thirds, like, and by big I don't mean blasting, but just being aggressive. Like it could be like a short angle dipper on the third as well.
Yeah.
But in doubles, definitely many times I've had to reel it in because my old habits from tennis are still to like speed up as much as I can, especially off the bounce, which can be more risky. And but oftentimes when I play the best in doubles is when I just settle in and I'm like, I'm gonna dink a lot, get a weak ball, and then attack, like instead of trying to force an attack right away. Like,
yeah, no, that's really cool. Who are no, that's really good, dude. Who are some of the? Do you watch a lot of pro pickleball? Or are you not really, huh?
Yeah, not that much. Like I should, but I don't.
When you're at these tournaments, do you hang around and watch like the quarters, semis, and finals? You know what I mean? Or do you stick around?
So I've only done that one time because my first PPA tournament, one of my friends, his name's Parker, he got me free tickets for Championship Sunday. So I watched the finals of every event. And that was really fun, actually. Like, really fun. It was Jack Sock against Federico Stackstrud in the men's singles final. And they were all really fun matches.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've never done that because but again, it's something I should be doing. But
okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. What did you, maybe you'll start to include that in your, kind of part of your training. And I do think that's really important to watch other players and see how they, like, what kind of shot selections they're making and technique and like all that stuff, footwork. But anything that you learned, either anything you learned from some of the top pros or who do you like, whose game, I know you haven't watched a ton, but I know you've watched enough, right? Whose game do you kind of not even like to emulate? Like whose game do you like really appreciate in the pro scene, and why?
Well, so the first question was, what did I learn from the pro, right? So one thing I've actually changed very recently is I realized, you know how J.W. Johnson's forehand dink looks a lot different than most guys' forehand dinks, but with my when I play with power paddles, like the Yola paddles, I realize it actually helps me to control the ball a lot better. Because when I used to always brush my dinks, and I still do it when I can. But when I'm pushed back off the kitchen line, I've found out when I have a more like arm-oriented stroke rather than like bending my legs into it, then it helps me to keep the dink a lot more low over the net and shallow because the paddle has so much power that a minimalist motion like that, it helps me to control the dink a lot better. So I've been doing that a lot, which I was surprised how well it works. Like, but I do it more for neutral situations or defense. But when I'm trying to create offense on dinks, I still like to roll it.
Yeah.
And then the pro, I think that I would like to be like the most right now is probably Stackstrud, just because he's like, in singles especially, he has everything. Like he has the movement, he has all the good tennis shots, but also the good control, like Ben Johns style shots too, like the cat and mouse stuff. But especially his movement, like if I could move like that on the court, I'd be really happy. Because a lot of times I feel like I can hit a good shot, but I just can't get in position well enough to execute it. You know what I mean? Like but he's awesome, that guy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he's undeniably number one singles player right now. At least the most consistent. Just making so many finals, so many good things on his game. Speaking of movement, and you talked about, that being a big thing. You said that you started kind of training or personal training or something.
Yeah.
Recently. So why'd you make that decision, and how is that going?
Oh yeah, good question. So shout out to my coach Ty Woody, and actually one of my friends, Will, I was chatting with his mom, and after it was during a drill set, after a drill session with Will ended, then I was chatting with his mom, and she asked me if I wanted to like go work out with him, but I couldn't because I had another pickleball session after that. But then she gave me the number of his personal trainer. I was like, oh, that's cool, like a personal trainer. Like I hadn't even considered it before that, but then so I got in touch with him. Like his prices were reasonable, so I was like, no downside to at least trying him out. And it does, I think it helps a lot having an expert train you as opposed to just going to the gym and kind of like, oh, what kind of weights should I lift? Like,
yeah.
Like I know some amateurs are very knowledgeable about workouts, but I'm not one of them. So for me, especially, it helps a lot to have guidance.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
also his training program is completely customized for like pickleball specific movements. Yeah. So it's much more catered to the specific needs of the client.
Wow.
As well.
Okay. So what kind of stuff? Like just really quickly, maybe one or two exercises that you guys are doing to help mobility.
So a lot of it is like shuffling, because he wants me to like shuffle quicker, like cover court faster laterally. And then also like band work, like doing like rotational things with bands. And then one time also I was pushing a sled back and forth, like a weighted sled. And that was like tough. Like I felt like I was going to vomit after, like I told you about earlier. But yeah, a lot of mobility stuff, and then also some footwork drills with cones and stuff, like
just like faster feet, huh?
Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's cool. All right, that's man, thanks for coming on. I know we talked a lot. You'll definitely see Mike on our channel more. We'll probably have him on our real pickleball channel too, where we do a lot of rec games and things like that. I don't know if you've seen that yet, Mike, but that's coming, or that started already. But any tips, Mike, for, let's just say, any just last tips that you think that can help someone listening, that's just really helped you. It could be a mental tip, or it can be a strategic tip if you want. Just like something that you think that would help all levels. So not 5-0, but like whether they're at 3-5 to 5-0 plus. Anything quickly you could think of.
So I think one thing that applies to all levels is trying to think trusting the process, because it takes a while to improve, and sometimes you can get really frustrated at yourself for 2 or 3 bad days in a row of training, but then the next week it's like you're playing well again. So it's like just trusting the whole process and the time you're putting into training. Like it may not help you today, but one day it will like help you a lot and get you to your goal that you're trying to reach. But
dude, I really like that a lot. There are some times where you feel great on the court, like we've drilled multiple times, and some days resets, whatever, feel great. And then you said, it's interesting, you said multiple bad days in a row.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I've like felt that, but like, how do you get out of that, or how do you put your mindset in a way where I think a lot of you probably have dealt with this, where you feel like you're drilling, or you feel like you're putting in the work, but you're not seeing it, as you're like working on your game, like it's small incrementally. Like if you look at it, if you zoom out, and this is what I tell players, like you actually have improved quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it's like the higher level you go, the increments could be smaller.
Yeah.
Right? And it could take more time. But how do you, let's say you have a whole week of like, man, you just don't feel like you're improving. What are some strategies, or what have you done to like help that? Or do you take a break, or like what are some things that you've done?
So I have taken breaks before, and that really helps, because sometimes when you're just training too much, it's like the sport loses its freshness, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's not fun anymore, and you stop playing creatively because you're just not having fun, and you're counting all your mistakes or whatever. So taking a break helps a lot. And also I think easier said than done, but being able to like enjoy playing helps a lot as well, because that way, even if you're not like playing at your top level, if you're just enjoying being on the court with your friends and hitting shots, then it helps to avoid burnout, like, which can happen if you're really trying to improve your game. Like,
love that, man. Yeah, so for those of you listening, really good advice. Make sure you're enjoying the game, and enjoying the process. Right, it's a process for all of us, right? Obviously players with tennis backgrounds like Mike, your process through the lower levels is going to be, it's going to be quicker, right? Because you spent years hitting a ball. But for those of you, who don't have a tennis background, it's totally okay, because you're putting in the current work, like right now. And even if your aspiration isn't to be a 5-0 one day, if you're a 3-0 and you're just trying to get to a 4-0, I think that's awesome goal, and that definitely could be done.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Jordan.
Appreciate it, man. Comment below if anything in this podcast or related to you, or if you have any questions about the mental game, strategy, those kinds of things. And just don't forget to check out our free attacking masterclass at attackmasterclass.com. Mike is going to be on the channel a little bit more often. He's a good drilling partner of mine, so I appreciate you, Mike, for training. And man, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jordan.
All right, thank you, everyone. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you in the next pod.